Today's video is going to be all about finishing a piece of hardwood in water-based poly. And this is a water-based outdoor finish. It's equivalent to a water-based spar finish is what it would also be called. Why water-based today? Because it's quick, it's easy to work with, it's easy to clean up with, there's low odor, it dries fast, and there's no special chemicals needed to work with it. So it's pretty straightforward and easy to get a good finish on your piece of wood. So the first thing you're going to need is some water-based polyurethane. Second thing you're going to need is a decent quality brush. It doesn't have to be a decent brand new brush. It can be used, as brushes do have a lifespan of more than one job. As long as you get it fairly clean when you're done with it, it can be used again, and I'll explain what you need out of the brush and what is less of an important characteristic when we're actually doing this and applying it. So one thing that I can say is incredibly important with this is to mix it thoroughly, either shaking with a stir stick or taking it to the paint store and actually having them mix it for you. It's going to make a huge difference having the whole thing mixed properly and everything evenly dispersed inside of what you're using. Next thing, once it's mixed, you're going to open the can up, and I've already used a little bit out of this one, so easier to put in. You're going to add some water, clean, potable water, about 10% by volume. You should really pour this into a gradiated cup and measure that way, but years of horrible, that's what I'm looking for, years of bad habits have led me to just do it by eye. That should be good. The purpose of thinning this is twofold. Your thinner allows the clear or the paint or the stain or whatever you're applying to spread out evenly over the surface once it's been applied. It also evaporates quickly, so after it's been applied, spread out, or laid out on the surface, the thinner evaporates out of it and thickens the material so that it doesn't run or sag or change from what it looks like, and it'll also help level it out. If you were to apply this without thinning at all, you probably would not get a very smooth, level finish. The next step is honestly clean, because any dust that's on your work surface or in the air around you has a higher chance of getting into your work and making a mess of it. It's always best to use a vacuum instead of instead of sweeping away any of the dust or dirt that was there. It's better to use a vacuum because less of it's going to end up in the air. Now onto your finished piece of wood. You can use some damp paper towel and just give this a quick wipe and then a quick resand, and what you're really trying to do is get any little bits of dust that are still on it off of it, so they're not going to end up in your finish. And when I say damp, I mean you don't really need a lot of water at all. You're really just trying to use it to pick up anything that might be left on the surface. And you can see there's a fair amount of dust still on there. You can also use a tack cloth for this, which is going to work better than a damp paper towel, and that will pick up whatever's left on the surface without raising the grain. What I just did raised the grain just a little bit, and we're going to knock it back down and make it smooth again with a quick sand, and then we're going to wipe it down with a dry paper towel, and we're going to start applying the finish. So I got a sander here with a soft backing pad, and I'm just going to use some 320 grit paper and just very quickly go over this. And then I'm just going to wipe it down with a dry paper towel, and we're ready to start applying the finish. Using the wet paper towel serves two purposes. It gets some of the bigger grains of dust off of this, but it also raises the grain, which is something that you want to do before applying a finish, as when you apply that finish, it's going to soak into some of the grain, which is the part that would be raised when you get it wet, and it stops feeling smooth. It'll become rough. If you raise it and then use very, very fine sandpaper, 320 or higher, to sand it back, you'll have less of that grain raised on your first coat of finish. So now it's time to apply your first coat of finish, and this has already been thinned out, mixed and remixed. And if you want to go a step further, you can strain it, which will get rid of any dust, extra little bits of dust in it. But we're just going to get our brush wet and apply in strokes that go with the grain. What you want to do is get the surface to look uniformly wet, but not have any standing puddles on it. And you're just going to brush back and forth with the grain until you have everything looking uniform and fairly smooth. Don't worry about the initial coat being perfectly smooth, as you're going to have to sand it again from the grain raising that little bit. But once you have the whole surface covered, you want to take your brush and just go in long strokes the length of your board with the grain until you get any little air bubbles out and everything looks smooth and consistent. Now you'll notice right here, you can see all the brush strokes in it, but this is the point I want to make. Putting on more so it flows evenly won't give you a better finish. You want to be able to see the slight brush strokes, because when it dries, those will actually disappear. Putting on a thicker coat isn't actually going to help with that, which is counterintuitive, but we'll see as this dries.